Afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar on financial aid. We're happy to have questions. One of the first questions that we get the most about is, do I have enough money to pay for my account, my bill? What entering freshmen should have received in all entering students is a paper award letter if you've been awarded, and a document called the financial aid worksheet. And that worksheet is also going to be shown here in just a moment to show you how to do the math for yourself. It will describe whether you're in-state or out-of-state undergraduate and how much tuition is anticipated to be, what the average cost for housing and dining, whether you live on campus or off, and then those two costs, whether or not you're going to have to, the third is, of course, whether or not you're going to have to purchase Student Blue health insurance, or whether your family is going to keep you on their insurance and you can waive that charge. Can we see that form, Jamie?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead. I have it in an Excel format already pulled up, so we will share it from that one.
Okay. And for the most part, the financial aid office tries to help students cover tuition and fees, room and board. We have sort of an expectation that you'll have worked this summer and that you'll be able to cover your books, that your parents will keep you on their health insurance so that you won't really have to pay that. Those are the things that we're trying to cover: tuition, fees, room, and board. If you have not yet received an award letter, you should have done so. And so what we want to do is to make sure that you have gone into your Pirate portal and look to see. There you go. Can you scroll up at all? Or down, I mean, excuse me. What you have there is sort of the standard example of the cost of housing, dining, room and board. In the first column where it says 1 semester, the second column is 1 semester, in-state, out-of-state, and your financial aid is awarded for the academic year. Further down the page, you're going to find a place for you to do the math. Semester tuition and fees, student insurance if you need it. The full year cost is on the left-hand side of this part of the page. If you're getting a grant for $3,000, please keep in mind that it's going to be split across the 2 semesters. So you would put $1,500 for 1 semester as you're doing this calculation. Okay. And then all student loans are by law required to be dispersed in 2 equal disbursements. So you can't borrow all of your loan in the fall and then say, I'll do something else for spring. Well, the government does not allow us to do that. It's going to be, if you have a $3,500 loan, it'll be $1,750 for fall and $1,750 for the spring. Okay. So does anybody on the call have a question about that? No? Okay. So this is a handy worksheet for students and families to sit down and say, all right, we know we've got tuition and fees. We know that the dorm and meal plan that's allowed here is higher than the contract that we received on Friday. You should have received your housing assignment and your contract last week or this week. And so you're going to do the math from there. If you find that you don't have enough financial aid, what you're going to want to do is have a family conversation about whether or not your parents want to put some of your expenses on the university cashier's office payment plan, or if they don't have the money to do a payment plan, are they going to apply for a Parent Plus loan for you? If your parents have had a tough time, and many people have had a tough time the last few months, there's a thing called special circumstances. And you can tell us that because we're using your family's 2018 income, if 2018 is no longer an accurate predictor for what your family's income is going to look like now, you're going to go and request special circumstances. And that's where we review your income and see if we can offer you something more. If you already have a 0 EFC, the expected family contribution that was on the output from your FAFSA application, then you don't need to do special circumstances because it doesn't go lower than 0. Next, a question that I've had recently is, may I have some COVID relief or CARES money? And those funds that ECU received this spring were specifically intended for students who were enrolled in the spring of 2020 and whose studies were interrupted when they moved home to go to distance education learning. At this point in time, ECU has not been given any money for students who are not yet enrolled. So that means entering freshmen are unlikely to get any CARES money because your studies were not disturbed in the spring of 2020. That may change under legislation that's making its way through Congress now, but at this time, I have no money. I also started receiving last week a good number of appeals from individuals who are working with an organization called With Frank, and it's financial aid with Frank, withfrank.org. It is my understanding that With Frank is charging $144.95 to join, and then they write some letters on your behalf. Please don't pay somebody to do that. All you have to do is write us a letter and say, my family was badly damaged during the hurricane, or my family was badly damaged during the pandemic closure, and we're going to go ahead and send you the special circumstances form. Please don't pay somebody to do that stuff for you. It's free. We don't need you to do that. So those are all where we stand with those. There is no CARES money for the fall at this time. There is special circumstance, and the thing we'll be doing with that is seeing if we can increase your Pell Grant or change the nature of the loans you've been offered from unsubsidized to subsidized. But there is, at this time, no new money for fall. So, question?
We have received a few different questions. So Susan Barnes would like to know, to clarify, will we be able to pay fall semester and spring semester separately, or do we have to provide the entire year?
No. At every school that I've worked at in the United States, and I've worked at 4 or 5, we tell you about your financial aid and we package your financial aid for the academic year, but your charges are assessed for fall, and then your charges are assessed again in the spring. Your financial aid disperses half in the fall, the other half will disperse in the spring. So you're paying semester by semester as you go.
And a few other questions that we've received is, when should students accept loans by?
I'd really like to see you accept your loans right around July 10. We hope to have your first bill out in your hands, excuse me, on July 9. So once you've had a chance to look over that bill and determine what your housing charges are going to be, please go ahead and accept your loans right after that so that we can get them sent up and back from the Department of Education. Are you able to address the password for the iPad students?
Yes, one of the other panelists, one of the OAs is responding to it, it looks like right now.
Okay, good.
And so another question we received is from Nandini. What should we do if we did not receive our award letter? I have the information on my pirate report, but I did not receive anything in the mail or any payment plans information.
Okay, and Nandini, if you are a continuing student, we didn't send you a paper award letter. You should have received an email from FAQs. That's the financial aid website or email address. And if you're a continuing student, we didn't send you a paper award letter. We only send those to entering freshmen. You get one. And after that, every update is electronically. It's an email. So the deal is, if you're a continuing student and you're not getting email from the financial aid office, but you filed a FAFSA, what that suggests to me is that we're going into your spam file in your email. We only send it to your official ECU email address. And if you're not getting stuff from us, you should be, because we email students weekly about their award or if there's something missing. So what I would ask you to do is to go search your spam. And if you are not finding anything in your spam, then with a last name beginning with D, your financial aid advisor is Mr. Jeff Evans. And you could write Jeff Evans and FAQ UES at ecu.edu. That's the financial aid web email address, or Mr. Jeff Evans, and ask him to look through your file and find out why you haven't been awarded.
Nandini did want to clarify that the student is an entering freshman.
Okay, so the next thing is to check to see if we have the correct address on your file. You do that in your pirate port, because if you have one address that you used on your admissions application and a different address that you're living at now, we may have mailed it to the wrong address. If you are seeing awards on your pirate port, you were sent an award letter. So we may have sent it to the wrong address. Can you check your pirate port? What else?
We don't have any other questions that have come through at the moment, but maybe we could have the OAs talk about some of their personal experiences with financial aid and scholarships, and just talking about like campus jobs and things of that sort. Does that sound good?
It does.
Okay.
I wanted to let you know that Melanie Bryan, the Director of University Scholarships, has joined this call. And so she's available to answer questions as well. And I see her hand is up. Okay, so which OA would like to begin?
I can go ahead and start, but I see a question real quick. It says, when can we apply for the special circumstances form and where?
Okay, so that's one of those things that I put on the special circumstances form is available now. You're welcome to go ahead and start filling it out now. The form is on the financial aid website. And one of the things I put together for students for this event is a PDF about how to find things on the financial aid website. Okay, so can I do that? Sorry. Now let's see if I can do it. I can't seem to share my screen.
Give me one moment and I'm going to give you some presenter privileges, so it should help.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The questioner, I'm not sure if you can, if you've sort of been out to Pirate Port or if you've been on the financial aid website. One of the things that I would urge you to do is to just go to ecu.edu/financial. And then the next page, once I can share it, is this one. And this is ecu.edu financial aid. If I need to turn in documents, where do I find them? First is go to forms and publications and application process, right? Forms and publications, 2021. And then all the documents that the financial aid office is asking you to provide are here for you to print and use. Please try to not take a picture of a completed form with your phone and send it to us. We find that we can't really use those. One of the other pieces of advice that I wanted to share with students is, given what happened in the spring when we had to move home and try to work remotely, we are really asking students to buy a laptop. It doesn't have to be a fancy one, and it doesn't have to be a terribly expensive one. You can get them at Walmart for $350. You have an allowance in your cost of attendance for books and supplies. A laptop is a necessary supply. Please don't try to participate in Blackboard via your phone. It's too difficult. But anyway, here, and we can put this at a place where you can get to it later, is how to find whatever documents the financial aid office is asking you to provide, including the special circumstances form. It's on this page. Okay, that's ecu.edu/financial, and then the application process, forms and publications by year, and here they are. When you go to the live website, you'll be able to see that that is the special circumstance. They're all in alpha order. Scroll down till you find it. Okay, that's exactly what it's called, the special circumstance petition. And Jamie, I'm going to close this and give it back to you.
Okay, thank you. So Justice, do you want to talk a little bit about your experiences with financial aid?
Sure. So my freshman year, I did not come in with any scholarships. So I did receive the ECU grant, but most of my financial aid came from federal loans. I believe it was the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The good thing about those loans is financial aid has a good reputation of measuring just about how much you need, along with your grants and your scholarships. So I think it's a great asset to the office, and yeah.
Well, and don't think of a student loan as scary debt. It's not like a credit card. You're making an investment in your future earnings potential by going to college and getting a college degree. Now, it is an investment and it does have to be repaid, but I think of a student loan as an opportunity. I would never turn down a student loan if that made the difference between whether or not I went to college. I wouldn't borrow any more than I needed. What Justice was describing to you is two different loans. They're both called the Stafford loan. One is subsidized and one is unsubsidized. The subsidized student loan is literally where the government pays the interest while you are in school. That's a pretty good deal. The unsubsidized loan is exactly that. There is no subsidy. The interest accumulates while you're in school. which is why if you can go to college on a subsidized student loan, I urge you to take it. If the difference between going to college and not going to college is the unsubsidized loan, then I would take that as well. But you don't take it unless you absolutely need it. You certainly don't take it so that you can then turn around and buy a $600 bicycle or, you know, go out for pizza on Saturday night. That's not the reason you take out a unsubsidized student loan. But if it's necessary to buy your books so that you do well in class, then you take the loan. Okay? We give you what we have to give. We don't give you more than we think you'll need. But if you have assets or if you have savings or if grandma said she's going to buy your books, then let grandma buy the books and don't take the unsubsidized loan. Okay?
And I think to add on to that, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you do come in with scholarships, or you get a scholarship prior to filling out financial aid, it's still good to, and you think whether or not you should even apply for financial aid because you got a hefty amount. I think it's also just a good idea to fill it out because you don't have to accept it, but you do see how much you can qualify for. So I think it's always good to just, go ahead and fill that out anyway.
Apply. Always apply. Even if you don't get anything this year, you apply every year. So, the scenario that I used a minute ago was that you've got everything covered except books, and you don't want to take the unsubsidized loan if grandma's going to buy your books for you. Well, if grandma buys the books in the fall and then she says at Christmas, honey, I can't do that again in the spring. That was a lot of money. What you will have done is you will have told me, I don't need that unsubsidized loan, so I'm going to decline that, right? We're going to take it off and say, that's fine, you can decline it. But if grandma says, I'm not buying your books in the spring, I can't do that, then you come back to us and you say, I'm going to need you to reinstate a portion of that loan for me, and we'll do that for you. Okay? Don't take it unless you absolutely need it. But if you need it, just tell us, and we can put it back. Right? Decline it if you don't need it. Tell us if you need it back. So I understand that Melanie has some comments, and I'm trying to see that. Okay.
We also received another question from Susan Barnes and wants to know, is it better to get a Parent Plus loan through the government or to get a private loan for what is not covered by the FAFSA awards?
Well, and that's a family decision because we like the Parent Plus loan because the parent is the borrower and because there is a cap on the interest that can be charged. If something happens to the parent, the loan, if dad becomes disabled or mom dies, then the loan dies with her. When it comes to a private alternative loan, the student is the borrower, mom or dad is the cosigner. They're not the borrower. If dad becomes disabled or mom dies, it doesn't change the fact that the student still has to repay that loan. Now, this is where the family conversation comes in, because if mom or dad can qualify for the Parent Plus loan, they are probably also a creditworthy cosigner on the private alternative loan. Private alternative loans have a lower interest rate at this time because they're based on what's called LIBOR, the London Interbank Offer Rate, what the money that banks give to banks, right? We have a very low interest rate going on in this country. However, if it takes you 10 years to pay back your student loans, I cannot guarantee for you that the interest rate is going to remain low for the next 10 years. I can guarantee for you that the Parent Plus loan is not going to exceed the cap. So it really kind of depends on who the borrower is, what's the credit score of the creditworthy cosigner. That's a conversation that we don't make the decision for you. I also don't tell you which lenders to choose, but there are lenders that we work with a lot and they have a good reputation. So those are the lenders on our website. Again, ecu.edu/financial. You can go look at loans there. So plus versus private, plus the parent is the borrower, private, the student is the borrower. That's the big one. Okay. And the interest rates. If parents are planning that you borrow and they're going to make the payments, as long as they are able to make the payments, that's fine. The alternative is better. The private is better because the interest rate is lower. If they're not in a position to make those payments, then most of those loans can't be deferred. The Parent Plus loan can be deferred while the student is in school. Those are family conversations. Okay.
So I want to ask Liz, the orientation assistant, what is one thing she knew about financial aid, scholarships, and grants that when she was entering as a freshman that she knows now?
So when I entered as a freshman, I had a scholarship that paid for my room and board. It was called the ECU Work Scholarship, and you have to get that as a freshman. So I applied for that back in, it was like November of 2018, I believe, before I was a freshman at ECU. So that took off a lot for my for the cost that I would have to pay back. And then I also still received financial aid. Then I had loans and grants and things like that. And just so you all know, like, you can call the cashier's office or the financial aid office and they will assist you with anything, because I was not sure with any of the stuff that I received. I was like, do I have to pay this? Am I paying this right? Am I doing this information? Like, am I doing this right, kind of thing? Because like, if you're new to it, you don't know if you are or not. So that's definitely a good tip that I would give, is to call if you have any questions. And then what else was it? For financial aid, with the grants and loans. With the loans, those are things that you will have to pay back, whereas like the grants that are given by the state or from ECU or any kind of scholarships, those are things that you get pretty much for free. Those are things that you don't have to pay back. So definitely take advantage of those and applying for those, because that will lessen the amount that you will have to pay in general once you graduate.
Very true. Very good. Thank you.
We have a question from Nandini about when are tuition and fees due each semester?
They are due approximately 10 days prior to the beginning of the term. This year, because the term was moved forward, it might be a little bit shorter. Remember, at the beginning, we talked about July 9 is the day that we hope to have the bill out on the web. And the student will be emailed what their university bill is. I believe tuition and fees are due August 5. Might be August 4. If you have financial aid that's going to cover your bill, the financial aid office will move the money so that it is visible to the cashier. So when you log into, remember, I want you to log into your Pirate Port and look at what's missing, but you can also log into your Pirate Port and see your account. When the financial aid office moves your money so that it becomes visible to the cashier, and we'll begin doing that prior to the bill on July 9th. So if you have, say, Your housing and dining is going to be about 4,000 and your tuition is about 3,000. These are made up numbers. That means you have 7,000 that you have to pay for the fall semester. And you've got $5,000 in financial aid already sitting there. It's going to show on your bill that these are your charges. This is your aid. This is the difference. That's the amount that you will have to pay by August 5. That's the key. What's the difference? So, if you have scholarships, you all know that scholarships are a reward for merit. Merit is you get good grades, you play a great musical instrument, you run a great football, right? Scholarships are a reward for talent or merit. Grants are based on your financial need, and those are from the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid that is available. If you haven't done one, I urge you to go ahead and do it. Just as one of the, whether it was Carrington or Justice, I don't remember, said, you know, even if you've got some good scholarships, apply for grants. I agree. File the FAFSA. We will offer you what we are able to offer you. It all comes together when the July bill is created, right? So scholarships, grants, student loans. Work study is something that's a little bit different. That is a fund that the Department of Education gives to ECU, and then ECU awards the eligibility to earn to students. You still have to go find a job and work the hours that you tell the employer you'll work, and then you get a paycheck. What's really sweet for the employer is they get your labor, but they don't pay your wages. The Department of Education is paying your wage. What makes it really valuable to you is that you get work experience, and with any luck at all, you're going to be working in the field that you plan to graduate from. So for example, when I was an undergraduate, I had a college work study, a federal work study job in the political science department, and I worked for the World Food Institute as a typist. But the folks in the department knew me. I was getting a bachelor's degree in political science, and they wrote really nice letters of recommendation for my entry to graduate school. That's where work study does exactly what it was designed to do. It helps students get work, it helps you earn some money, and it helps you make connections in the academic department that you want to be in. So work study can be really cool. We have people who work in the financial aid office and we pay them work study. And I think they probably don't find their job quite as interesting because mostly they're doing editing. So, but if they want to be writers, that can be good too. There are hundreds of work study jobs across the campus. But you do have to find a job and you do have to go to work every day to earn the paycheck. It is not a grant. It's a wage. Okay.
So the next question I have is going to be for Lauren. Lauren is an OA going into her senior year. So obviously she's had plenty of experiences with financial aid, scholarships, grants, and the whole process. So Lauren, what are some tips and tricks that you have for new students and their families?
Turn my camera on so you can see me. So basically my best advice that I can give is for students to fill out that general application. I think Carrington might have touched on it earlier, just going ahead and applying for it. But filling out that general application will help you qualify for scholarships that you may be eligible for. And there's also, you can go in and apply for some. It kind of makes it a little easier. Once you fill out that general application and have your basic information and financial need on there, you can filter it by what your like major is, you can go ahead and apply, and it tells you what you need, the requirements for it, how much it is. You get notifications right to your student email address when you submit that general application. So it's just a really good way to apply for scholarships through the school.
Cool. Jamie?
Yes, I'm sorry, you cut off. Okay, well, I don't know if I'm frozen, but I'm going to ask another question. And I know something that we've been getting a lot is about work study placements and how much students have a say in where they are when they find out those placements typically each year. If you want to go over that a little bit, Julie.
Well, and work study is not necessarily a placement. We do not find the job for you. This is intended to be as real world as we can possibly make it, which means jobs are posted for federal work study positions on the HR website. So again, it's EC, really, we have it set up to be hire a pirate. So you can go to ecu.edu and type in the search magnifying glass, hire a pirate, and it'll take you to the HR website where student positions are posted. You have to go through the experience of applying for a job, interviewing for a job, and being hired. If you've been offered work study, you're going to get a form that's called a hiring authorization, and we'll be emailing those at the latter part of July. And if you interview with somebody at the library and they decide to hire you, you're going to give them that form, and that signs you up for me to pay your wages out of the Federal Work Study Fund. But placement is something we don't really do. We want you to have the experience of looking for the job, doing the interview, and getting hired.
Something that crossed my mind, that I don't even know. But do you know if scholarships that you apply for and that you get awarded, do you know if they are renewable, or you can either apply for it the same year, the year after that, and stuff like that?
Well, and this is kind of where we wish Melanie could speak because I know she's on the call. Most of the scholarships that we offer at East Carolina University are not renewable. There's a few that are. Honors College, the Access Scholar, the EC Scholar, those are renewable if the student keeps their GPA and does the service work that they're required to do as a part of the scholarship. The one-offs, the Chevrolet scholarship for $1,000, that's just 1 year. You can apply and hope to be considered for it again next year because it is offered every year, but it's not renewable per se. What we really have an expectation is that students will go into the scholarship portal and create their profile. And they'll be doing that in September and October, so that they're into consideration for scholarships once the ECU grades post. So then we have your ECU GPA, and then the portal closes sometime around January 10, January 15, and committees across the campus begin to review scholarship applications. Because if the College of Business has 10 scholarships that donors have given to their college, then they have a committee of faculty who are going to make the awarding decisions. But the portal, the nice thing about the portal is it's one place to apply for everything. There are some major specific scholarships, there are some general scholarships, and then there are some you know, things like honors college, you're invited to participate in the honors college. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get into consideration for all kinds of other scholarships as well. I would urge a student to refresh their profile every single year and do it in September and October. Maybe the Fall Festival Day is the day to do it this October, so that you're in consideration for the coming school year. Thank you. So, did we want to share with folks the what you need to know? And I'm interested if there's anybody on the call who has not yet received an award letter and has not yet turned in their documents. I know I have about 2,000 students still out there who haven't finished their financial aid file. I can't award you until I get all the documents that I'm required to check. ecu.edu/financial is where you go to find the documents that I'm asking for. But please keep in mind, if I've been emailing you every week, and I do that every Thursday, if you have not been opening those emails, or if you're deleting those emails unopened, I'm going to be going to your spam file. Please go look to see if you've got some stuff in spam that you maybe should open and take a look at. So, what would you like to talk about next?
One thing that might be beneficial to cover is how award packages can sometimes differ from year to year based upon family standard, like family contributions, as well as any individual jobs that you're picking up, or whether it's adjusting higher or lower.
Okay, so the basic underlying formula in the FAFSA, remember it's the free application for federal student aid.ed.gov. The FAFSA formula is based in large part on the size of your family, the number of family members going to college, and then both the type and the amount of income that your family has to run their household. If, for example, you come from a family of 5, you've got mom, you've got dad, there's you, and then 2 younger siblings. You're a family of 5, 1 in college, and your family contribution will be based on that family size, number in college, and then the amount of income that the family has. Let's say your family makes $70,000 a year. Mom works, dad works. The next academic year, you have a sibling who's going to go to college as well. So then you become a family of 5, 2 in school, and one of your parents has to drop to part-time. Okay, so your income dropped from 70 to 50. The amount of financial aid you're going to be offered is going to grow a lot based on increased number of family members in college, decreased family income. If that younger sibling decides 1 year of college was enough for me, I'm going to join the military, then now you're a family of 4, 1 in college, because persons in the military don't count because they're automatically independent. And your parent got a new job and it pays twice as much as the old job. So now your new family size for year 3 of this scenario is a family of 4, 1 in college. Family income is 90,000, not 60 and not 50. Okay. That's going to mean that as the family size shrinks and the income grows, the family's expected family contribution increases as well. So you may have gotten an ECU grant in year 1, in year 2, where you had two people in college and somebody was working part-time. You may have gotten a Pell Grant and an ECU grant and maybe a state grant. Year 3, when the family drops to 4, one in college, and the income grew up to 90, you're not going to get a Pell. You're not going to get a state grant. You may still get ECU grant. So it flows with the size of the family, the number of family members in college, the amount and type of income. So if your parents had your siblings and you all nice and close together and you'll all be in college at the same time, while your parents may think they're going to break the bank, it's actually going to help. More money. More
I
fun.
actually have a question on that, like example that you were giving out. So you said like it obviously changes if one sibling goes to college, but you also brought up like military. What if, like I know I have a twin brother who goes to ECU, but he is also in ROTC and he's contracted through the military after he graduates from ECU. How would that type of situation work?
Okay, and because your brother's ROTC, he's still considered to be a student. He's not active duty military. So we would still count him as number of family members in college. So it's after a student leaves university and goes to basic training and becomes active duty that they no longer count because they have become independent for financial aid purposes. ROTC is different. He won't be commissioned as an active duty officer until after he graduates. So he's still a student for my purposes.
Thank you.
Sure. He's a student with a really nice scholarship usually, but yeah.
And he's an RA. Very small.
He's got it covered. And I don't know if we have any out-of-state students on with us today. One of the things to think about if out-of-state tuition is going to stop you from being able to attend university, certainly here at East Carolina, one of the things that you may want to investigate is the National Guard. If you believe that you are physically fit and you are willing to do the time, the North Carolina National Guard will get you in-state tuition. So think about it. We have some flyers and brochures. We're happy to share that information. Some students don't want to do the basic training and they don't want to do the 2 weeks of active duty each year and 1 weekend a month, but that's a relatively small price to pay for in-state tuition in my book. And it's about the only way to get residency. Out-of-state tuition is pretty significant, in part because it gets no support from the taxpayers in the state of North Carolina. If you can find a way to get in-state tuition, that's pretty slick. So. Next question.
I want to gear this question more towards Stephanie. So I just want to see like what kinds of questions and admissions do you typically get about financial aid that you would like for us to cover right now?
Thanks, Jamie. That's a great question. At this point in the cycle, I think the most important thing for high school seniors is to know that we do need your final high school transcript before your financial aid can be dispersed. So the deadline for turning in your final high school transcript is July 1st. However, we recognize that some school systems are unable to send the transcript by July 1st. So we just ask that you get that high school transcript to the admissions office as soon as possible so that your financial aid will be able to disperse during the first disbursement. So that's the most important thing at this point is that final high school transcript. But do not feel like if your transcript comes in a few days late that that's going to hurt you. Just get it to us as close as possible to July 1st.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I'd forgotten. It's one of the rules for federal funds, and most state and institutional funds follow the federal guidelines that money will not pay until we can document high school graduation. And so that's where we wait on the student to request that final high school transcript be submitted. You know, students maybe have been admitted on a 6 or a 7 semester high school transcript. We need the final so that we can pay their financial aid. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yes, and just one final note with that, students, we receive about 4,000 of these in a week's time period. So I would just say give us about 2 weeks to get that processed. We may have it here in our office. It just may not show up on your Pirate Port account until closer to mid-July. So just don't worry until mid-July. If you haven't seen something, please contact the admissions office and we will assist you with that.
Thank you.
I was asked a question by an incoming student. She says that she received a scholarship from outside of ECU from her local community, but that the scholarship, she won't receive that until August. How will that work with her refund or financial aid, or how is she supposed to do that?
Well, and this is an outside scholarship issue. So if the student is notified that she's won an award and it's for $1,000 for 2021, if the student can tell us about the award, we will put it on her account as pending funds, as long as the check is made co-payable to the student and to ECU. If the student gets the check, and it's co-payable, we ask her to mail it to us so that we can notate her file and have it sitting downstairs in the cashier's office waiting for her when she gets here. Because she'll endorse it then. Never endorse it before you mail it, please. Don't do that. If it is somebody who has to prove their enrollment before a scholarship will pay, again, tell us about it. Have the scholarship donor send us a letter. We will notate the student's file that the student has been awarded this particular set of funds. It's going to pay on September 1st. We will notate the file. It won't pay until we receive the funds, but if we have to acknowledge the student's enrollment, then we do that after the first day of class, and that is August 10th. So it's not going to be here for the August 5 deadline, but we can let the cashier know that the money is coming. Okay. So it's helpful to send this to the scholarship office, the financial aid office, or the cashier's office, any one of us. Though generally speaking, the financial aid office is a good place to start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the final 2 questions that we have for you before we wrap up is, what would be the best way to contact you or someone in financial aid over the summer compared to once school starts back up in the fall?
The financial aid staff are available via phone and by email. We have a booking application that's set up on the admissions website, so students can go in and book an appointment and the financial aid officer will call them at a selected time. There are, I think, 11 financial aid counselors who will reach out. They're reviewing your file, they're making awarding decisions, they are the person's asking you to supply us with information, whether it's your high school transcript, your documentation for citizenship, your residency appeal, whatever it is. Our general line is 252-328-6610. Yep, that's right. 252-328-6610. You can also email to FAFSA as in Sam, at ecu.edu. I have 2 people who read that email all day. If they can't answer the question, they're going to route it to your financial aid counselor. When you call in on 328-6610, that's a staff who work in the call center. And if they can't answer your question, they too will route you to a financial aid counselor to try and answer your question. And you can also use the booking app on the admissions page to set an appointment. And we'll call you. The thing to keep in mind is that many of the staff are working remotely. So the incoming number on your line is going to be suppressed. It's going to be caller unknown. If you have a 10 o'clock appointment and you're expecting a financial aid call and you get a call that says caller unknown, please pick up, because what we can't have is individual staff members' personal cell phones and home phones going out to 29,000 people. We just don't do that. So if you're looking for a call from us, pick up if it says not caller unknown, okay? We don't know when we'll be back, but soon, I hope. Next question, or was that the last one?
That would be the last question that we have for today.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak directly to the folks. And thank you all for joining in with good questions and good comments. Been very helpful.
Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in, and we have several other live sessions throughout the day that you will be able to find on orientation.ecu.edu with direct links to access them. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.